Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Wario Land 2. Time for our second alternate final chapter's final story, Awaiting Syrup. In fact, this is also our 50th level, so this is the last main level in the game. I say main level for a very specific reason. Put it bluntly, there's a reason, despite there being only one level in the main game left, that there's 20 minutes of part here to talk about. This final level is pretty straightforward. If you've done everything we have up to this point, you're going to know how to deal with everything that you're going to have to deal with here. For instance, you got to be lighting yourself on fire to break these fire blocks, but also to get past those cloud enemies over to the side as usual. This room you can actually do upwards of twice to get everything done. In fact, I do backtrack in and out with a jump cut really quick here just to get this done. Because I do want the coins that are over here just to have them. But ultimately, it's a pretty easy level on the whole. But it makes up for it by having at times a kind of rough boss fight. And as I brought up a part or two ago, I think the entire reason why this alternate final chapter's panel pieces are numbers 46 through 50, let alone the treasures, is because of what the boss fight itself is, because it makes more sense as a, quote, final boss, unquote, than the other alternate final chapter. Because ultimately, they really do intend these to be done later, even if you can find a way to get here earlier on, if memory serves. It's just you gotta know where to go to have that happen, and without the treasure map, the implications of alternate exits are far and few between, to say the least. Similar to the main final level, they actually do a good job of throwing a good amount of enemies that can inflict states on you here in such a way that it actually feels like a pretty conclusive final level. Albeit, there are a lot of the things they throw at you are for optional coins in most cases. When it comes to enemy states you need to use one to get up through a certain room, and I think that might be it off the top of my head. Ah, god dang it, Drunk Wario, my nemesis. While they do throw a lot at you, though, this is also one of the shorter boss levels. But you have to go through more rooms than some of the other boss levels to get to the end. It's just that those rooms are ultimately shorter, even if you don't go for all the coins. Now, in here is one of the trickier things. We want to get smashed by one of these mallet apes and become Spring Wario. But we want to let Spring Wario's timing almost run out. You want to wait until you're effectively blinking to hold down the A button to get a higher jump. Because if you jump too early, you'll go straight past where the treasure room door is in this place. But now we're up here, so we can get our final treasure in the game. And of course, we've done 50 levels. This is our 50th treasure, our last treasure overall. And what else could it be but the Game Boy itself? It's very self-aware, but I genuinely find moments like that weirdly charming. And it's like, yeah, your ultimate reward is me. We now want to get hit by the mallet ape again, though, because our actual door goal is up in the northwest of this room. And you can't get up here without that, although you might be able to make at least that first jump by using the mallet ape as a platform. Just good luck making it the rest of these jumps up there. Because while you can pick up a mallet ape, you're not picking it up and carrying it all the way up there. And this room just takes us straight to the boss fight. So let's start talking about this boss fight. Once again, our boss of this chapter is Captain Syrup. However, this time around, she's in effectively a Wily capsule. Starting off, she's gonna lower down towards your field to either try to light you on fire or zap you with electricity on top. 3 dashes takes care of that phase pretty quickly, you can combo it even. But then she's gonna start summoning bombs to throw at you. You jump on the bombs and then throw them up at her 3 times to do damage. The further you get into this phase, the weirder the bombs move. They start off just by trying to move directly at you, but then they'll start to just try to slam down on top of you and all that. The really rough thing is trying to jump on top of them while also making them not fall off the platform. Because in that case, you have to go chase them down or just fall off and start the boss over, depending on what happens to you. 3 shots there, and she's done. That is the final main level completed. And thus, there's only one panel piece left to get, and then we'll effectively be at 100%. So one more time for good old time's sake, why don't we? And thus, finally, 50 pieces have been collected. The picture was effectively completed at this point anyway, but they didn't light anything up on it until now. Our goal is set. Great! Perfect! Now let's go get the Syrup's treasure. For getting 100%, they do unlock one final level. But before we get to that, we gotta watch the ending and credits for what we just saw, so I'll see y'all in a few minutes. As I brought up a moment ago, we've now done 50 stages, gotten 50 treasures, and 50 panel pieces. So now all 3 of your endgame metrics are at 100%. Every screen after this should also be completely filled. But as that text told us, there's one more thing to unlock. So let's take a look at the treasure map now that we've done that. They've now marked where any boss is. In fact, there's actually a way, I think there's a button combo you can hold to just fight a boss fight outright. But also, there's now 2 extra things at the bottom of the map. First off, let's talk about the game. This minigame is Flagman DD. Playing it costs 100 coins and you go for a high score just for bragging rights. If you're familiar with Game & Watch games, you'll recognize this is actually a reskin of a Game & Watch game Nintendo made eons prior to this even, that was also featured on a specific Game Boy or Game Boy Color Game & Watch collection. Effectively, it's Simon Says or Shy Guy Says, where you just press the buttons they tell you to in the order they do. The other thing we unlock is the really final chapter, Time Attack, Steal the Syrup's Treasure. This is the ultimate test of every platforming mechanic and control for Wario you've learned throughout the game. We're in a very different looking tile set here with body parts just buried in the walls for some reason alongside various enemy sprites. And you just gotta feel your way through. Some rooms focus on breaking walls, some focus on comparatively obscure platforming mechanics Wario has in this game, like the thing I brought up earlier where if you do a shoulder dash and then hold down, you'll slide. Doing a high jump around corners and all that. It's surprisingly precise. And your time is being taken note of here. With that said, if memory serves, the time is just there for effectively bragging rights, and that's about it. To my knowledge, nothing changes depending on your endgame time here. Just try and make whatever time you can. Future me, if I'm wrong about that, check in on that. I'm fairly certain we're correct on that, but maybe there's some obscure secret even I'm not aware of at this point. Ominous as hell level, though. And honestly, failing in this level can be pretty punishing. Because even up here, if you fall down, you're probably getting sent to the start of the room, which means you have to just go through all that dresser jumping again in a way that can be honestly pretty rough. They end on a surprisingly hard level here. Which is kind of what the series does in general, because Wario Land 4 does that as well due to its different structure. In this room, our goal is to cart this bug enemy all the way to the far right of the room, but this requires bumping it slowly through small, one-tile-high platforms or otherwise. This requires just effectively feeling it out. I brought up you could do this earlier, but you could just kind of backwards bump into enemies to knock them a certain direction like this over and over again. It feels weird, but it does work, and it's what you're meant to do here unless there's a platform I'm just not aware you can destroy here. I guess you can maybe throw it up through that little platform right there now that I think about it. In my experience with this level, there's only really 2 or 3 rooms that cause me issues, and I've heard of people having issues with another one, this one in specific. You might recognize that up there as that enemy-only platform we've seen since around near the original endgame. Just hold up and hold A while pressing right intermittently, and you'll bounce on the enemies no problem. This isn't actually that hard a room. If you are trying to more precisely platform by not using that, it can be rough, but as long as you use all the mechanics they give you to do this, this part is pretty easy. The next room, however, is bizarrely precise. We gotta do effectively upwards wall jumps. You gotta get like on the very edge of one of the platforms with Wario's toes, do a high jump, and then hold the opposite direction almost immediately to get into the next little hole in the wall. Falling down here, you're losing a lot of progress, just straight up. This room is rough. I don't like it. It's harder to mess up than you think, but the stress will often make you react. In this room, we got a high jump off of Blue Jays that are charging on us to get to the next platform. I like this type of platforming a lot, honestly. Just gotta be careful to do a charge jump right there of sorts to get to the next platform, otherwise you're falling straight down. Thankfully, in this room, lost progress isn't that bad. That jump always feels a little too tight. This is another really rough room. You gotta actually use the slide I was talking about here. The first few parts of this aren't too bad at all, but the very top of the room here, we got these spikes we gotta jump over by using a shoulder dash jump. And frankly, it's precise enough that I've seldom made it all the way through without getting hit. What I usually like to do, honestly, is just take a spike hit backwards and try to spike jump through it if I can. As I'm trying to do right here, because I just don't like this. This doesn't feel that good. Wario's moveset can do some precise platforming, but I think the precise platforming they want you to do in this game, when and if it comes up, rather, is a little too much for what the game can do, I think. And here we got the last main room of the area. What we gotta do in here is become Flat Wario and make our way to the far right of the screen, while avoiding any water to restore us. Flat Wario's eccentricities can really come out to shine in this specific room, namely how far you float left and right as you descend can surprise you if you don't place your jumps just right to start. Especially right here, because you gotta be right at the edge of that. But otherwise, as long as you make it over to that platform I was just on, you've made it to the end of the level nice and fine. And at the end of this level is our actual final boss, our good old friend, Giant Spearman. You need to combo him here, though. If you let him fall down, he will fall into an impenetrable spike barrier that you just need to reset the room to get back to. And trust me, you don't want to do the backtrack back to this room. It's not fun. But with that Giant Spearman out of the way, that's the final level completed. Let's watch our final ending. Oh, that's Wario Land 2. This game is good, but it can really feel like it overstays its welcome compared to the game that preceded it or the games that follow it. It has far too many levels for what it's trying to do. It's ambitious, I'll give it that for the first attempt at this specific gameplay style, but its faults for being the first stepping stone towards what Wario Land would become are very noticeable if you come back to it from even Wario Land 3, and especially from Wario Land 4. Feeling your ways through some of the levels to find the treasure rooms and all that is very fun, yes, but there's so much there that I really do recommend taking the break I recommended at the start of the latter 25 levels, as it's very easy to just kind of lose interest and start feeling tedious, in my experience at least. If you played this when you were younger, I imagine it's just easier to get into what the game's throwing down. But coming back to this game, or coming to this game at all, slightly older, like I did, you really feel the weight of the latter half. With that said, I can still give it a pretty good recommendation, because most of the issues it has are things that I personally have with it. I love the soundtrack. I think it's a visual treat, especially on the Game Boy Color. And if you wanted to play it, well, you were in luck for a good while there, because you could get this even on the 3DS Virtual Console. But that's now in past tense, because that's been shut down. So if you want to play this nowadays without doing some form of modding or all that, you're either going to need to wait for them to put it up on the Nintendo Switch Online, or shell out some probably serious change for a Game Boy Color cartridge. Because let's see, let's get a raw reaction to this. Wario Land 2 eBay. Alright, I see a cleaned cartridge for about 30 bucks. It's not too bad. 23, 5, 40, 70. Oh, at least that has the manual. Honestly, these are not fair prices, but they're better than some other in the retro scene. The most ridiculous one I see is a complete in-box one for 130. Oh, there's a ridiculous one. 200. Ugh. God, the retro scene is a goddamn nightmare price-wise nowadays. And it always was kinda, starting from like the mid-2000s, but it's just gotten worse and worse. Especially because now it's impacting games I grew up playing. Like, I'm curious, actually. What if I put in, like, 1,000 Year Door, even? How much is the GameCube release? 70, 60. Okay, that's not too bad. That could have been a lot worse. If you're a fan of platformers, I do really recommend this one all the same. Just go in understanding that if you want to do the entire game, you're going into a lot that is either samey or can quickly lose your interest if you like faster-paced platformers. Because I think that's the big thing with me as well, is I prefer my platformers faster-paced. Like I've said before, Mega Man, Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden. So the slower type Mario spin-offs like this, even though they do get faster as of Wario Land 3 and especially 4, just don't appeal to me as much. With that said, it is easy to also comprehend Wario Land 1 and 2, even as they are already different genres, as an already different genre from what 4 became. So, it's still real cool. Notably, as we get our final totals, they're going to give your time from the final level as well as a star, but you still have the soft reset, they're all the same. The star does not save as far as I know. Now, with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. I want to thank y'all for watching. Have a great night. Take care. And next up is, going to be a little weird. Because y'all might remember, not too long ago, I did a decent-sized break from uploading. That has pushed my LP schedule back. The next couple of games I'm doing are all ones I initially planned to have ready for October. So we're doing a horror marathon, likely in the middle of December. So that's gonna be interesting. With that, have a great night, take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, however unfitting to the season it may be. See you guys then.